Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us. OPAC's presentation with Upopolis, and we have Krista, who is the Upopolis National Program Manager and a certified child life specialist, here to talk about this wonderful community that connects youth aged 10 to 18 who have medical issues and life challenges to connect with peers in a safe online environment. Krista, if you want more information to give.
Sure, thanks for having me. I love to talk about Upopolis. Just so you know a little bit about me, I have been a child life specialist practicing in a tertiary care center here in Nova Scotia for over 25 years. I'm the mom of three teenage girls, and I've been with Upopolis for just over 5 years. And one other project I worked on was founding a camp called Camp Caduceus, which is for children who are navigating grief. Especially youth. So not your children under 8, but your children 8 to 16 and 17 years old. So I'm very passionate about, because I live rurally and choose to travel into work in the tertiary care center, I'm very passionate about resources that are available to families no matter where they live. And that's where my love of Upopolis comes from. So I'm going to run this kind of in the format of a question and answer, and we'll have time at the end for questions if people have them. Do feel free, though, to stop me along the way if you want me to elaborate on something, or if you have a specific question that you don't want to forget. One of the things that I do love to share is the backstory behind Upopolis, because I think this is an extremely important, and I think you as parents will really appreciate this. This is the Papavangelo family. This is Bazile and his daughter, Christina. If you're not aware, if you haven't checked out the website, Christina had experience with toxic shock when she was 14 and was very critically ill at McMaster Children's and in intensive care for almost a month. It was that admission and the illness of her good friend Katie, who dealt with an oncology diagnosis and stem cell transplant and was a patient at Sick Kids. Between the two of those youth, they realized at the time, and this was now Christina's in her 30s, this is when she's 14, they were very isolated. And as child life specialists, that's something I'm very interested in, as helping youth with connections and reducing that isolation, whether it be physical isolation or just isolation that comes from getting a diagnosis. And she just recognized that isolation. So she was always trying to figure out, her and her family, as a way to give back, to thank McMaster for their help and for getting her through that very scary time. And when she was in her early 20s, she was working with TELUS, and you'll see there a sponsor on that first page. They're a philanthropic partner of ours. When she was working for them, when she was younger, in her 20s, they came up with the idea that they could help create this private online community, which would be monitored, which would be secure and safe, a nice safe place for healthcare professionals and other organizations that work with youth to be able to connect them, to connect those youth with peers, and to connect them with information that was reliable related to medical experiences. So I think it's really, truly just a family-centered thing that they started this foundation, Kids Health Links Foundation, and then they started these 3 programs, one of which is Upopolis. And if you're interested in learning more about the others, there's Upedia, which is for child life specialists, and there is UMind, which is for mental health professionals. So the people behind Upopolis, those are the people behind the foundation. People behind Upopolis are a team of child life specialists. And I'm going to apologize because I'm missing Nancy off the slide, who just joined our team a few weeks ago. But Christina is our founder, our co-founder with her dad. I have myself, I'm the national program manager. So I look after a lot of the onboarding stuff, and I've been in different roles over the 6 years with Upopolis, but I really look at connecting with partners and potential referrers like OPAC. And Jessica Miller is our child life specialist, who does a lot of the programming and interacting with the youth on the site, helping them make connections with one another, vetting content, and making sure that there's up-to-date medical information and diagnosis information. And she does really great programming, which we'll get into in a little bit in more detail. And then Tia Prollins looks after our social media. She's also a child life specialist. And she looks after the sibling part. So we do have a place where siblings can connect as well. So we're really fortunate to have 4 child life specialists, all with a ton of experience working in various parts of the country and living in various parts of the country. So I am based in Nova Scotia. So if it's a little darker on my screen, it's because it's an hour later. Jess is out in Alberta, and Tia and Nancy are both located in Ontario, which is nice because it gives us more availability throughout the day, but it also gives us perspective of all across the country. So safety is key. So when the Papa Evangelou family was coming up with Upopolis, it was all about safety. You know, internet wasn't getting newer in hospital at that time. Letting children, youth on social media was really new. So they came up with 6 things that had to be in place to make this happen, to feel good and confident about putting youth online. One is it's monitored by our team daily. It's not by the minute monitor, but every day the reports are read by our team, which shows everything that has happened on the site. Youth can only join if they're referred. So they can be referred by organizations like OPAC, or they can be referred by children's hospitals or community hospitals, but the referrers connect with us. We verify who they say they are. We sign them up with a special code that they can then use to make referrals online. Youth, so youth have to be referred. They can't self-refer, but if they do hear about us, they can go to their healthcare professional and say, could you check out this link on the internet on the Upopolis website and have yourself approved to be able to refer me? There's no cost, it's free. So it's very doable to make happen. We have everything hosted on private servers within TELUS. We ensure that all youth have to go by their first name and the first letter of their last initial, and all the staff on the site go by their first. And we also reserve names. So we don't let youth make up screen names. You have to go by your first name so that we can make sure and that people know they're calling them by their real name. And then we reserve names like Upopolis, Upop, the letter U. So things like U Crew would mean that those spaces are facilitated by our team. So one thing to know about Upopolis is we like to have a balance between medical information and just pure teen fun. So if they want to create a space about or a group about NHL, because that's what they're interested in, they can, but then they can also connect with other youth about oncology stuff on the oncology crew. So we make sure that we title all of our stuff with those reserved names so the youth know that we're creating the content and the posts in there, even though we monitor all the stuff, even the groups that the youth create. But we just like them to know an easy way to identify is that we have those reserved names and we have these reserved banners. So you'll see the white, the blue, and the orange down at the bottom of the page. And that is to let youth know they go into a group and it has that cover image, one of those U banners. It is either a group we created or our team has the white U banner. So if you went into my profile, I would have the white U banner that indicates that they're a member of the Upopolis staff. So our child life team. And then of course we have the child life specialist actually working on the site, which people often ask like about security measures. We used to have a place where youth could report abusive content or whatever. It never got used. Now they can connect with us. There's a chat feature. They can message us. We're always on the platform. They can post on the wall if they have concerns. There's lots of ways for them to connect with us. And like I said, we're always monitoring what's happening on the site because safety is so important. But because the youth get referred and because our team is working on there and they get to build relationships with us like they do child life specialists in the hospital when they're there, we don't have things happen on this site that you might see on other social media like bullying or like just cyberbullying disclosures, that type of thing. If there was something that came up that was a concern, like somebody had posted self-harm, indicating that they were going to do self-harm or something like that, we have processes in place to make sure that we can connect with their emergency contact or that we can connect with their referrer. So we have proper procedures in place for all those things. So who can make referrals? I did kind of mention this, but online healthcare professionals or staff from different organizations like OPAC can get approved. They can apply online to get approved by our team, and then they can make their referrals to go online to make a referral to one of our 3 different programs. And the 3 different programs are, we have the platform that's for youth who have like a medical diagnosis, a chronic illness, a critical illness, or some kind of medical condition. Then we have a separate Upopolis, which I'll get into in a little bit, that we created kind of a duplicate site with a few different limitations in place to help us keep populations separate. So within that, we call it the island. There's a place for siblings of those youth who connect on the main Upopolis, a place for them to connect because we know they need that peer support and that information as well. And then a place for youth navigating grief to be able to connect. And it's nice because their organizations, if they attend an in-person group, can also connect with them on that platform. So who is the Upopolis platform for? About time I've been getting to that, I guess. Like I said, it's for those patient populations or those youth populations I just mentioned, like critical illness, chronic illness, medical diagnosis, or medical condition. And we say that because we have youth with visual impairments on there as well. But then also siblings and youth navigating grief. And then specifically, we look at youth who are 10 to 18 years old. And we say 10 because once you're lower than 10, you really don't have a good grasp of social media. And often parents maybe don't even want you on there. 10 is kind of when you're kind of piquing your interest. But we know that just for the maturity level for the youth to all be interacting, we like to keep it 10 to 18. So what happens on your 19th birthday, your account automatically deactivates unless we have a plan in place for you to stay on. And youth can only stay on if they're in some kind of volunteer role with us. And I'll talk more about them. So Upopolis, like I should mention, is a website, and youth can go in and sign in there on, you can see on the right-hand side, but there's also lots of other stuff on the website. You'll see at the top, there's a tab for parents, and there's a resource section, which has some different information in it as well, especially our new Creative for You page, where we started sharing resources that our team has created. Often they're resources we create with the youth, and then things that we develop to share on social media. So I was just mentioning that we launched this new Upopolis Island. Unfortunately, when we launched our sibling and our grief platform, it happened to be at the exact same week COVID made an appearance in Canada. So we kind of rolled that back, and then we reassessed things, and we decided to come up and copy the website and make a few adaptations to make it work for these populations. So we call that the Upopolis Island. So they're two separate websites, but if you happen to go to the wrong one, it redirects you to go to the right one. If you're a youth looking, a sibling or a youth navigating grief, if you're looking to connect, there's a redirection box in case you land on the wrong site. So what does it look like? Oh, it is a website, but it's also an app. You don't have to go in the Apple Store to get it. You can get it in the Google Play Store. But when you are invited to be a part of Upopolis, when the youth get the email to activate their account and create their own password, they're asked if they want to put the app on their device. And if they choose not to, they will be asked several times, like maybe the 3-week point, and then again in a month or two, asking them if they want the app, and they can always just say no. It is mobile adaptive, so no matter what device you're on, if you're on your iPad, it works properly on that. If you're on your laptop or your desktop, it has a function for that. If you're on a phone, it has a function. So this is what you would see if you logged on for your laptop. So basically, you see a news feed, which is what you would see, and you're probably familiar with, like Facebook. So you log in, you see your news feed, you see content that's populated by the groups you belong to and by the friends you belong to. And what's important is that when youth join Upopolis, we really encourage them to make friends, and we get our youth volunteers to reach out and ask them to be friends right away so that they can get some content populated so that when they log on, it's interesting and not just a blank screen. And then encourage them to join groups so that they get that content always added to their news feed. And we have, so we do have groups on Upopolis, and we have a group called All Things Upopolis, and that's where we post about programming that we're doing. So just as programming like question of the week, so you can ask a question, she'll help them find an answer. So if they were like, what's an MRI? She can help find an answer. If they were like, breathing strategies work well for me for coping, can you give me some ideas because the one I'm using, I'm getting tired of? Then she would come up with some breathing techniques to share with them. She does another one called Self-Care Sunday, where she's always promoting self-care ideas every Sunday for them to think about. And then we have Feel Good Friday. So there's just different programming that happens on a regular basis that gets the youth engaged, that shares knowledge with them and gives them the opportunity to share back. And we do different projects which they're invited to be a part of to share. So recently they just did a project on what helps you if you have to do self-injections or you had to go for a vaccine, what types of strategies do you put in place? And then we made, you can see it now on our Creative for You page, we made a little infographic of all those strategies suggested by the teenagers. So when they go into here, you'll see there's a horizontal menu bar, and that tells them all the features of Upopolis. So one that's missing off here, because we just reintroduced it a month ago and the screenshot's a little bit older, is there is an instant chat feature that they can either instant chat with all the people that belong in the group that they're chatting with. So if it was the oncology group that they were in, they could hit the chat feature and chat with and include all the youth that are in there, as well as they can pick specific friends that they just want to chat privately with. They have the ability to see what notifications they have. They have the ability to send like a private message, which is more like an email. They have the ability to post on the group. They can look and see what groups they belong to. And up in the upper right-hand corner, there is a drop-down menu for them to see what other groups are available to them that they aren't automatically a part of. So we automatically put them in the coping group. We automatically put them in the group, which is our medical library, which is full of content that we created, that other reputable organizations created, but that we vetted. Our team has reviewed it all to make sure it's written and can be understood by youth. And we make sure we include not just written content, but videos and pictures and games, because everybody learns different. And those things can all usually be found in the document section of the group. So in the document section of is a whole filing cabinet library of great resources. This is the view that you would see if you were using your mobile device. So in order to get that horizontal menu bar that I was talking about, the different features, you would just click the three little lines by the navigation. So I mentioned a little bit about programming. So here's some more. Every month we send out to the email that the youth signed up with their account with, we send them a U-News. And this is just in case maybe they didn't need Upopolis at that time. They needed it when they get signed up and then maybe they got away from it. It's just to let them know what we're doing on Upopolis in case it interests them and in case they want to come back. Or if they're on Upopolis, just to give them a quick glance of what's going on. So these are a few things that took place last August. We give away connection awards every year. They're for youth who are graduating from high school. We want to give them up to 4 of them, $250 to go get some swag at the university or the secondary institution they're going to go to, or to help pay for a course. So they have the opportunity to apply for that when they're graduating. We do Zoom chats, so we call them U-Meets, and Jess does those. So she did one on story mapping for them. She did one on just cupcake decorating, because that's fun, and it was a pandemic, and how nice to hang out with some peers and decorate cupcakes. So we rotate between just plain fun and U-Meets with a purpose. And then of course, every month she has those U-Meets, but we also have like a fun games night. So lots of stuff, and it's always featured in that newsletter that goes out. These are some of the resources that we've created, and often we create these with the youth. So just to give you an example of some of the things that we would work on with the youth. During the pandemic, we're always coming up with different programming with different goals in mind. And when the pandemic first hit, we thought, gosh, there's so many youth that benefit from Upopolis, but there's so many youth that are struggling right now with this big stressful life event of COVID and closure and restrictions, that how can we serve those youth? So we came up with an email campaign, and it was a 5-day challenge that youth could join. And every day we sent out to them a video lesson, handouts, and maybe an activity. Like one day was about coping skills. We sent out a little yoga video so that they could participate in yoga. So we had these strategies that to help them build skill and to process and cope with all the big changes that were happening. So sometimes we do take things off Upopolis because we wanted to keep our Upopolis community safe and we didn't want to just let random youth join, but this was a way for us to show up for all the youth when they were trying to navigate all these big changes of 2020. So 2019, I guess, too. This is just an example of like siblings. We give them opportunities to connect. And then I did mention like Jess has regular weekly programming that she does. I chip in and help with some of it. Tia does some of it too, just so the youth can build relationships with us all. And we're all showing up so that they have this great support system. So we do have groups. So just to give you an idea of some of the groups that are on Upopolis, like I said, there is the UCOPE group. There is the UNO group, which is our medical library. There's the All Things Upopolis, which is where we're sharing all the things that we create, all the content, where we're welcoming all the new users. And then we have these ones that have blue headers, which are diagnosis specific. And we have 27 diagnosis specific groups where youth can go into these groups and chat with other youth with the same diagnosis. They can also look in the members list to see who they might want to reach out to add as friends, because those youth as well have that same diagnosis. So one, it's nice to connect with people who just get it about the whole hospital treatment medical thing, but then on another level, a smaller level, you can connect with youth exactly with your diagnosis or a very similar diagnosis. I did mention that sometimes you can stay on Upopolis. We have some volunteer opportunities for them. So any youth, because we know that our youth can't necessarily always be in school, but sometimes school requires volunteer hours. And it's nice for them to get leadership opportunities. We give them a chance when they're usually around 13 to 18 to be a UPAL on the site. So once they've been a member of Upopolis for a while, we give them the opportunity to be a UPAL, and we send them out a thank you every year. And they meet every third Wednesday of the month with Jess to make plans and set up different projects to work on. But what we want to do here is get those youth reaching out to the new youth to welcome them. And also they just run their own fun space or group on Upopolis, which is something they're interested in that other teens might be interested in. So one youth chose to do one that's more related to medical. So she talks about living with scars. Another youth loves Harry Potter. So he has Harry Potter group. So anyone who has Harry Potter interest can join. There is another group that is NHL. There's another group that's about movies. So all different opportunities. And then to make it just fun for them and to give them that leadership opportunity. Then we have our U Mentor program, which is when you turn 19, if you're still really benefiting from the site, because maybe developmentally, you're at a different level, or maybe you just have a lot to offer the population on Upopolis, then we might invite you to stay back and stay on and be part of our U Mentor program. And our U Mentors, they run a couple groups on Upopolis. They help us with some things like making 60-second videos to teach youth on how to use the platform. They also work with our U Pals on different projects. So opportunities for them to all gain experience and leadership. So a few things you might like to know. We do have a blog, and we love it when the youth take it over. So you can check that out on upopolis.com under the drop-down menu that says blog. We have our Connection Award, which I mentioned, where we give the up to four grads a year, the little bursary or scholarship. We have a podcast. So it's exciting. We just started over the pandemic, and we have, I think, 20 episodes now. And it's just a way for us to connect on different topics with our referrers, with our youth, with our families who are involved. So we just did one on preparing for the COVID vaccine. We had our youth take it over, one of our youths who just did some transition work and shared about her transition experience. We had a youth, two youth with Crohn's join us. We had a youth who belongs to the LGBTQ2+ community join us and take over, or actually join us on the podcast, but also took over our blog. So it just gives them the opportunity to be a part of these things and to help them process their experience and help them share with other youth what they've learned from their experience. It's just great to find all these different formats that we're able to, add value and share and build community through. So I know I just ran through a lot. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. You can always email us. you can email me at krista@kidshealthlinks.org, or easier to remember, support@upopolis.com. I'm happy to answer people's questions at any time and to redirect them to the information they're looking for, or to let them know the process for their youth to get connected or for them to become a referrer. So if you have any questions, please ask. And if not, thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you so much, Krista, for an excellent presentation. Upopolis seems like a great resource for kids and teens. We often hear that there's not a lot of resources out there, particularly for teens who are going through medical chronic illnesses. And this seems like a really fun space where they can get, especially that it's safe, that it's monitored, and that you have expert child life specialists on there with expert information that's trusted. So it seems all around, and it's fun too, right? It's awesome that they can do volunteering, that they can have their own little specialty groups, you know, depending on what they like to talk about, little blogs and everything. So it sounds like a great space, and I hope our families, our parents who are interested in having their children join, look more into it at upopolis.com. And if they are interested, they can join through OPAC. OPAC is a Upopolis referrer, as Krista mentioned, and it's on our website, or if you can't find it, just let us know at info@opac.org that this great resource is out there to support our teens. Michelle, did you have any questions, or good?
I don't, but I think it's a great resource. I think, you know, teens especially feel extremely isolated. So when they have someone that they can relate to, and not necessarily exactly with the having to be the exact illness that they're going through, but just with somebody their age, somebody like the age instantly connects them. So I think it's a great space, a great resource, a great tool to have to really bring those connections together for a lot of teens that really feel that isolation, which can be extremely difficult. So I think Upopolis, I think it's great, and I think many families should, if they have not already, should really look into it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think also for siblings.
Yeah.
Siblings are also often, you know, kind of forgotten, and so they feel ignored sometimes. You know, siblings have their own set of issues when they have a sixth sibling. So to have a space just for siblings who understand each other, you know, that's wonderful as well. So
I know when you add the pandemic to the mix and siblings not being able to come into the hospital and families having to stay and not switch out, like it just adds a whole other layer that made the sibling island even more important during this past year.
Yeah, and it really helps meet the teens where they're at with technology. You know, that's where they're on, you know, they're online. So that's great that you can relate to them that way. So anyway, just to mention real quick to our audience, is always a reminder that OPAC is also here for parents to support you. If you look at our website, opacc.org, we have a lot of resources there, and our weekly virtual drop-ins with our parent liaison, including Michelle. And we also have some information, of course, about Upopolis on there. And we're always happy to have our guests like Krista on today. We're doing monthly virtual educational sessions like this. So thank you so much, Krista, for joining us. And that's great. We'll be in touch for sure with some more referrals, hopefully soon for you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks, guys. And like I said, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.